The Bald Eagle is Back by Mary K. Carson. Page 3. High above a river, something is falling through the air. A look through binoculars reveals 2 3-foot-long identical brown birds with white heads, bald eagles. The pair's long claws, called talons, are locked together. The bound pair spins and somersaults as they plummet toward the water. It's the amazing yearly courtship fight practiced by nesting pairs of bald eagles. All of a sudden, the birds disentangle and start flapping their huge wings, which stretch nearly 8 feet from tip to tip. They soar upward, higher and higher above the sparkling river. Then, far overhead, they meet and lock talons again. Male and female bald eagles look the same, so for an instant, as they hang suspended in mid-fall, they look like a single eagle looking down at its own reflection. But the illusion is broken as the pair picks up speed. Feathers ruffling in the wind, they begin to tumble again. Page 4. A powerful bird and symbol. When the United States was newly born, the Founding Fathers were looking for a symbol to represent the country and become its great seal. The symbol would be used on official documents and currency. Many of the committee to choose a national emblem favored the bald eagle. At that time, bald meant white, not hairless, as it does today. They felt that this large, long-lived, powerful bird of prey, with its majestic white head and tail, was a perfect choice. It represented freedom, strength, endurance, and loyalty. These were qualities that the committee felt the new country stood for, and because it makes its home on this continent alone, the bald eagle is truly an American bird. Page 5. One committee member, Ben Franklin, disagreed. He thought the wild turkey should be the national bird. He was especially against choosing the bald eagle. Franklin argued that the bald eagle was a bird of bad moral character because it sometimes ate carrion and stole food from other birds. But bald eagles, like any other animal, are neither good nor bad. They simply do what they do in order to survive in the wilderness. What bald eagles do to survive is hunt, and they're built for it. Like all birds of prey or raptors, bald eagles have keen eyesight. Their vision is much more powerful than ours. Soaring far up in the air, bald eagles can spot food or prey hundreds of yards away. They can even glimpse fish swimming near the surface of the rivers, lakes, and bays where they like to hunt. Page 6. When they spot their quarry, eagles go on the attack. They can dive at their prey at speeds of up to 100 miles per hour. Then, in the split second before impact, they rear back, extending their legs before them. Like other raptors, bald eagles mainly kill with their feet. Their long, sharp talons stab the prey and grip it tightly as the bird carries it off. An eagle can lift an object that weighs as much as 4 pounds. Its talons have a special locking mechanism that instantly closes on its prey and won't let go. Once safely perched on a branch or on the ground, a bald eagle can unlock its talons. Then the eagle uses its large hooked beak to rip the flesh of its catch into bite-sized strips. Page 7. Ben Franklin lost the debate. The bald eagle was placed on the Great Seal of the United States in 1782. George Washington ensured the bird's acceptance as a national symbol when he took the oath of office in 1789, wearing a jacket with bald eagle buttons. Today, bald eagles can be seen on coins, 12 state emblems, military medals, and other national symbols. Even the first person to walk on the moon got there in a spacecraft named Eagle. The entire world listened as astronaut Neil Armstrong announced over the static of the radio, "The Eagle has landed." Page 8. The Founding Fathers weren't the only ones to find symbolism in the bald eagle. It's always been an important part of Native American culture as well. The eagle often represents the sun or a messenger to the spirit world. Many tribes view eagles as symbols of peace, and their feathers are symbols of bravery, honor, and great deeds. Eagle feathers, considered sacred and prized possessions, are used in many Native American traditional costumes and rituals. For example, in the Eagle Dance of the Pueblo and other Plains people of the southwestern United States, eagles are featured at the top of the center pole. Dancers wear eagle costumes, complete with eagle beaks and wings, feathered with actual eagle feathers. Then, they perform a weaving dance whose movements mimic the eagle's flight. Page 9. Predatory pests and changing landscape. When this nation chose the bald eagle as its symbol, eagles were widespread and abundant. In 1787, as many as 75,000 nesting adult bald eagles lived in what would later become the lower 48 states. These birds thrived in almost every part of the country, from the Everglades of Florida to the Mississippi Valley, to inlets and islands of the far northwest coast. Bald eagles adapted to a remarkable variety of locations. But while the new U.S. government put bald eagles on coins and official seals, most settlers weren't concerned with symbols. Early European immigrants were too busy trying to carve a living out of the wilderness. Most settlers saw all predator animals, from wolves to hawks, as a threat to their livestock. A bird as powerful as the bald eagle posed a real threat to farm animals. They could easily kill chickens and other poultry. They could even threaten animals as big as newborn sheep. So eagles and other raptors were shot dead with no more thought than was given to pulling weeds. Page 10. As the population of the United States grew, farmers and ranchers spread out across much of the continent. Settlers quickly moved in. They plowed up prairies for farmland and cut forests for lumber to build new towns. As the 19th century came to a close, the United States was far larger and more populous than it was at the time of its founding. It was also entering a new growth spurt. The U.S. population would double in the years between 1880 and 1920. Farms, ranches, cities, and towns were crisscrossed by railroad lines and roads. The buffalo that once thundered by the millions across the Great Plains were now nearly extinct. Wildlife, including the bald eagle, was losing ground to the expanding human population. Page 11. To thrive, eagles need large trees to support their huge nests, clean waters for fishing, and plenty of wide open space. These were all increasingly hard to come by in 20th century America. By the early and mid-1900s, the bald eagle population was dropping sharply. In 1918, the United States Congress signed the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918 to manage populations and regulate the hunting of wild migratory birds. These included bald eagles and other birds like ducks, geese, crows, and doves. This act put restrictions on how many and when people could hunt wild birds. But it didn't stop the killing completely. Fearing the national bird would die out, Congress passed the Bald Eagle Act of 1940. This law made it illegal to kill or sell an eagle. Congress hoped this new act would save the bald eagle from possible extinction. The members of Congress representing the will and good sense of the people did not want to see their country's national symbol vanish. Page 12. DDT and Carson's Crusade. The Bald Eagle Act seemed to help for a while. Still, eagle populations continued to decline. Now, most American children could only see bald eagles in zoos. These birds could still be found hunting the swamps of the Everglades, the remote lakes of Minnesota, the upper Midwest, and a few other scattered locations. And though thousands of bald eagles had been killed in Alaska, the population there remained strong. but they had disappeared from most of their earlier range. By 1963, only 417 bald eagles, nesting pairs, remained in the lower 48 states. People began to worry that there was nothing they could do to stop the decline of the bald eagle. In fact, they were not at all sure that what was causing the continued decline. Fortunately, scientists discovered what was causing population freefall. The culprit was DDT, a chemical pesticide. DDT was sprayed on everything from mosquito-filled wetlands to pest-ridden farm fields. This popular pesticide killed all kinds of insects, but didn't seem to poison other animals. What no one understood at the time was that DDT disrupted the reproduction of eagles and many other North American birds. DDT was killing birds by preventing the birth of the next generation. Page 13. In an eagle mother, DDT prevents the mineral calcium from getting into the shells of her eggs. Just as calcium makes bones strong, it strengthens eggshells. So DDT in a mother eagle will cause thin-shelled eggs. These eggs often break when parent birds sit on them during incubation. Bald eagles' diet makes them especially susceptible to a buildup of DDT in their bodies. Eagles eat mainly fish. DDT first entered the fish's food supply through water contamination by runoff from DDT-contaminated swamps and farms. As bigger fish ate smaller fish, day after day and year after year, they ingested more and more of the DDT. Over time, it accumulated in their bodies. Eagles are a top predator. They ate the larger fish, which had the highest amounts of DDT in their system. Eagles were taking in a lot of DDT. The results were deadly. Page 14. 1. To rid crops of insect pests, farmers sprayed fields with DDT. 2. Runoff from contaminated fields pollutes lakes, rivers, and streams. 3. As bigger fish eat smaller ones, they ingest more DDT. 4. Eagles, the top predator, eat the largest fish, accumulating DDT in their bodies. 5. DDT in a mother eagle causes thin-shelled eggs, which often break. Page 15. Thanks to Rachel Carson's 1962 book, Silent Spring, Americans woke up to the dangers of chemicals like DDT. Carson was a marine biologist, someone who studies the life forms of the sea. Also a talented writer, she used her skills to alert the public about what she learned through her research. Carson explained DDT's effects to the public in words that regular people, not just scientists, could understand. She warned that if something wasn't done about chemicals like DDT, one day spring would come without birdsong. Carson's book was crucial in the 1972 banning of DDT. It also helped to start the environmental movement. Americans' view of the natural world and their place in it was changing. More people than ever now believed that part of being a good citizen was making sure that the land, forests, and wildlife were conserved for future Americans. This new spirit of conservationism helped to protect the bald eagle. Page 16. Act of Salvation. The national bird's alarming disappearance also played a big part in the birth of perhaps the most important environmental legislation in history. This was the Endangered Species Act of 1973. The act has been described by the United States Supreme Court as the most comprehensive legislation for the preservation of endangered species ever enacted by any nation. The Endangered Species Act, or ESA, defines what it means to be an endangered or threatened species. It also calls for endangered and threatened species to be listed with the federal government. A plant or animal is endangered if, without special protection, it faces extinction. A species is listed as threatened if it needs protection to prevent it from becoming endangered. The bald eagle was one of the first species to be listed under the Act. Because the ESA made it illegal to harm or kill listed species, people could now be severely punished for hurting bald eagles. The Endangered Species Act goes beyond protecting plants and animals. The Act also calls for their recovery. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is in charge of developing species survival plan for each endangered species. Each plan lists what needs to be done to increase the species numbers. For many species, including the bald eagle, this means protecting their habitats. Page 18. Even after DDT was banned, the chemical remained in the bodies of fish and therefore in eagles. It would take years for eagle eggs to return to their normal strength, but Americans decided that letting its national symbol become extinct was no longer an option. They got to work bringing the eagle back. The Endangered Species Act made it the law. But laws on paper must be respected and enforced if they are to make a difference. For example, the Bald Eagles Recovery Plan called for cleaning up waterways where eagles fish. Nesting areas on public land were also declared off-limits to visitors who might disturb the eagle pairs and their young. Landowners in eagle country were also encouraged not to cut down large trees. It takes a strong tree to hold an eagle nest, or eyrie. These nests can measure 10 feet across and weigh as much as a ton. Page 20. Healing and hacking. By 1974, the DDT ban was starting to take effect. Nearly 800 bald eagle nesting pairs were trying to raise eaglets in the lower 48 states. Was the bald eagle on the road to recovery? Maybe. But to make sure, the Bald Eagle Species Survival Plan called for giving populations a boost where possible. Raptor rehabilitation centers were opened to care for injured bald eagles and other birds of prey. Dedicated workers took in birds of prey hit by cars, shot, or injured by power lines. They nursed them back to health. Then they were strong enough to fend for themselves. The birds were returned to the wild. Page 21. Conservationists also started breeding captive eagles from zoos or rehabilitation centers. Though DDT still lingered in the bodies of wild bald eagles, many captive birds were free of the pesticide. Through a process called hacking, young captive-born eagles can be taught to live in the wild. The young eagles first live for about a month in outdoor cages on high towers. Then the cages are removed so the eagles are free to move around. But they are still given food. Eventually, the eagles learn to fly and hunt well enough to provide food for themselves. Now they are wild. The captive-born eagles released in this way have helped to repopulate many areas. When the eagle captive breeding program ended in 1988, 124 bald eagles had been hatched. By that time, there were 2,475 nesting pairs in the lower 48 states. Page 22. Back from the brink. So great was the bald eagle's comeback that in 1995, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service downlisted the species to a threatened rather than an endangered one. The American bald eagle is now back from the brink of extinction, thriving in virtually every state of the Union, said President Bill Clinton on Independence Day, 1999. He announced that the national bird would soon be taken off endangered species list. Its numbers have grown recently to more than 6,000 nesting pairs in the lower 48 states. More unpaired young bald eagles are also doing well. I can think of no better way to honor the birth of our nation than by celebrating the rebirth of our proudest living symbol, said Clinton. The national bird will always be protected under the Eagles Protection Act and the Migratory Bird Act. Even so, bald eagles still face a variety of threats. Juvenile bald eagles with brown heads are mistaken for hawks and shot. Eagles are poisoned by eating carrion, especially animals shot with lead bullets, or by fish from mercury-polluted waters. They also get caught in traps intended for other animals. Another big danger is electrocution by wires or high electric poles. Habitat deforestation, especially on waterfronts, has disturbed nesting sites. Even though the bald eagle has been delisted as endangered, its populations must be monitored to ensure their safety. Page 24. The Interior Department Secretary, Bruce Babbitt, spoke at the bald eagle's delisting as well. As head of the Department of the Interior, this secretary oversees many of the nation's conservation and environmental programs. It is fitting that we close out this century with such a great tribute to America's commitment to conserving our national heritage, he said. Generations to come will not just see bald eagles on our coins, stamps, and flagpoles. They will be able to look up in the sky and see our national symbol flying overhead. The end.